Hey, hello, howdy, how you doing? Welcome back to another Project Zomboid video. About 6 months ago or so, I released a video named 101 Beginner Tips and Tricks for Project Zomboid, and you all seem to really like it, so I figured why not beat this dead horse some more and give you 101 more tips and tricks for beginners. These consist of both single player and some multiplayer tips and range from basic game knowledge to examining item IDs for specific assets, all with the goal of helping you survive the zombie hordes more effectively. Speaking of zombies, I want to take a minute and thank today's sponsor, Opera GX. Are you sick of having your resources sucked up by other browsers, only for your PC to move at a zombie-like pace? Well, Opera's GX control feature allows users to limit the amount of CPU or RAM they are willing to let their browsers use. It's a perfect option for when you want to keep a bunch of tabs open, but also don't want your browser to hurt your gaming performance. What a lovely feature. Surely other browsers have this built in as well, and don't use tons of RAM, just open a few tabs, right? The big highlight for me is the Zombie Apocalypse GX mod. This is what I'm currently running because, well, I play zombie games and it just makes me smile. It comes with a complete overhaul to your browser that includes its own custom background music, has unique keyboard sounds that sound like you're writing in a journal with a pencil, has audio cues for whenever you open or close a tab, and also comes equipped with a custom theme and wallpaper design. There's some other things you can do, like adding different shaders to change your screen or your Discord background as well, but I'm running out of time and you're running out of attention span, so let's keep it moving. Boom, car crash transition. Now I know switching browsers can be a huge pain in the ass, and yes, I know Opera's letting me swear in the ad. How cool and hip, right? Luckily, they're also fucking geniuses and have this really cool quick import tool that allows you to quickly import all of your settings from your previous browser to Opera GX, like browsing history, bookmarks, and cookies. It's also compatible with every Google Chrome extension, so please, for the love of God, you Chrome users, stop making excuses and switch. If this all looks exciting, you can use my link below to download Opera GX and have a better online experience. For what it's worth, this is a browser that most of my staff already used prior to the sponsorship, and one that we'll continue to use going forward because it's just a really great product. So thank you, Opera GX, for letting me showcase your browser today along with all of its custom features. Alright, that's enough Edge for one day. I get it, because Microsoft Edge sucks, right? I know, I'm so good at this. Alright, let's get into the tips. Pressing Q while crouched will prompt your character to whisper instead of shouting. This has the same effect, just in a smaller radius, which is helpful when you're trying to pull 1 or 2 zombies at a time. At the time of recording this, you can still drive a car through closed and barricaded doors. All you need is a car and to find a double door where both doors are connected to each other with the handles touching. This has been a bug in the game for almost a year now, and I doubt it's one that'll ever get patched at this point, given IndieStone is too busy trying to make sure that cows don't breed with chickens in Build 42. So, have fun with this one. You can watch multiple VHS tapes at the same time if you have more than one TV, effectively allowing you to power level all of your skills early on. This works for multiple skills, but can also be used to target one specific skill. A good example is saving the VHS tapes until you read volume 5 of a skill book, then using 3 tapes to finish off the skill by watching them all at the same time. The short-sighted trait is essentially a free 2 points, as the trait is negated by finding and wearing glasses, which you can spawn your character with at the start of the game. It's an easy way to pick up an extra 2 points to spend on something like Cat's Eyes or Dexterous. Standing with your back to a window or fence while aiming will allow zombies to fall through and under you. You can use this to bait zombies in through one window and stomp them all without having to move. This is a great strategy to use when fighting sprinters. Drinking olive oil is one of the fastest ways to get your weight up. Bottles of olive oil contain 2,500 calories and can be found in any house or restaurant in the game, allowing you to binge drink your way to Brendan Fraser status in only a couple days. Fighting while underweight gives a damage debuff of 20% for underweight and 40% for very underweight. It's best to avoid fighting with melee while in this predicament, as your time would be better spent following the previous tip. Players often confuse jogging for sprinting. Jogging in Zomboid is achieved by holding the shift key. Sprinting is done by pressing the left alt button on your keyboard. These can obviously be changed via keybinds, but there's a noticeable difference in the two. This brings us to tip number 9. While sprinting, not only does it burn through your stamina faster, but you can also trip over various objects in the world, as well as fall over when running into walls. On my first go around with this type of video, I give a few QOL mods that I like to use. Well, that list has been updated immensely since then, so here's some other good ones that I found useful in my endeavors. Weapon Condition Indicator is a mod that adds colored bars onto the items you're holding, as well as adds messages above your head every time an item decreases in durability. It's a good way to keep track of which weapons are about to break and when you need to get out of the area, because you're not as good at inventory management as you think you are. Building off of this, Auto Mechanics is a solid mod that allows you to train mechanics without having to click on each individual item and select uninstall, then reinstall and repeat. This mod has one button that you click and it automates all of that for you, allowing you to power level with one click instead of 500. Similar to that mod, auto sewing is the exact same premise. It allows you to train tailoring by patching one piece of clothing over and over again instead of having to continuously click each patch and then remove them. The last mod I'll leave you with is a lifesaver for anyone on a potato PC. Rain Cleans Blood does exactly what it says it does. If you don't know, Build 41's biggest issue with performance stems from the blood splatter. Killing only a few dozen zombies has the potential to bring your $4,000 Big Rig Butters build all the way down to a whopping 4 FPS if you don't play with reduced blood splatter. This is rumored to be fixed in Build 42, but we all know how promises in video games always go hand in hand. Alright, back to game mechanics. Repairing generators is one of the fastest ways to grind the electrical skill. I'm not sure why you'd ever want to be maxing it out, but if you find yourself wanting to waste your precious life farming a few meaningless skills, go leave a generator running for a few days. Disassemble some digital watches and use the scrap electronics on the generator. You should have no problem leveling up. If you're here looking for tips on how to level fitness and strength, I'll save you the time. Whenever you start with your build, the main goal should now be, how can I maximize both of these traits and still have a functional character? It's not overly difficult to passively level fitness and strength to about level 6, but anything after that isn't worth going for. The XP levels are so enormously high that you could do burpees all day, every day for months in-game, and would only find yourself about halfway to the next level. Take my advice, go heavy into fitness, go strength second, and then pick one combat skill for a boost in XP. I can't remember if I covered it in the first video and I'm too lazy to check, so here we go. Fast Learner should be an undisputed pickup every playthrough. It gives a 130% XP boost for all skills except strength and fitness. Pair that with a starter trait that gives you a 75% boost on spawn, and you'll be power leveling your combat to the moon in no time. Speaking of must-have traits, if you're like me and love to loot whore your way to victory, I recommend going with Organized as another must-have. It gives more container space as well as extra inventory space in your backpacks as well. Basically, it allows you to carry more on you while also increasing the storage in your base. You know what trait isn't a must-have? Lucky. I'm not sure why so many people love this trait. It only gives a 10% chance of finding additional loot. In a map as large as Knox County with hundreds of POIs to enter and thousands of homes to break into, there's no need for an extra 10% chance. That's what, one extra house for every 10 you go into? Not worth it at all. Save your points for something better. For those of you who take claustrophobic and rely on beta blockers and booze to sleep, stop. Here's a few base locations that allow you to sleep indoors without proccing panic. Number 1 is the second floor of the Twiggy's Bar in West Point. Number 2 is the abandoned warehouse to the west of Riverside. And number 3 is any of the warehouses by the intersection in between Muldra and Rosewood. If you're looking for antique oven locations, I got you covered. These are all static spawns and they will be there for every playthrough, barring any changes brought in Build 42. The first one I know of spawns in the abandoned cabins north of the Pony Romo, which I know sounds like Tony Romo. If that's too difficult for you, well, you can always head south of the Pony Romo to a shed behind the best base location in the game to find a second antique oven there as well. If you trust yourself not to get lost, there are at least 3 separate cabins in the woods that all have antique ovens as well. That being said, unless you're planning on living out there, it's much easier to grab either of the ovens listed above in the previous tips. For my spear lovers out there, get your carpentry to level 3 as soon as possible when starting a fresh run. Carp 3 allows you to craft max durability spears, meaning you'll get way more use out of them instead of those cheap ones you make at carpentry level 1 that break in like 3 hits. Eating burnt food with weak stomach will kill you. That's really all I have. Stop eating burnt food, you psychos. If you're like me, you hate leveling your nimble skill, especially after the Indie Stone fixed the ability for us to walk into walls and level it instead of just fixing the f***ing skill. Anyway, a good way to do this is to combine the 2 worst aspects of the game and do them at the same time. You can easily level your nimble skill by foraging. Aim walking will give you a boost to foraging while also giving you XP for nimble. So do that for like 4 weeks in game and you'll max foraging while also leveling nimble from 0 to 1. A true win for the people. This ties directly into the next tip here. For the love of God, grab a trait that'll boost your nimble XP. It takes several IRL hours to level up your nimble skill, so make it easier on yourself and grab something like Gymnast. It'll give you level 1 in both nimble and light-footed, along with a 75% XP boost, which you can combine with the fast learner trait. You can also run the Burglar Occupation, which will give you level 2 in light-footed, nimble, and sneaking with a 100% XP boost, with the negative of being one of the most expensive occupations in the game. Spears can be crafted using knives instead of chip stones. Don't waste your time foraging when you can just walk into a kitchen, grab a meat cleaver, and start crafting. It is worth noting, however, that bread and butter knives cannot be used to craft spears, though they can be attached to spears for extra damage. Speaking of knives and spears, it seems the maximum spears you can craft per knife is 10. I've tested with hunting knives, meat cleavers, and stone knives, all each end up at 10 regardless of maintenance level or condition. Machetes, on the other hand, can craft 13 spears before breaking. That being said, if you sacrifice a machete for 13 spears, refund the game and purchase a helmet. And we touched on this already, but blood splatter causes frame rate issues. Reduce blood textures to boost performance so your potato PC doesn't explode when you kill more than 3 zombies. This can be done by selecting options, then scrolling down to the rendering and performance tab on the display option. From there, you can turn blood decals down to your desired amount. You can also turn off blood splatter entirely in the sandbox settings before starting your playthrough. Speaking of revisiting old topics, I know we touched on this already as well, but if you're running a melee-focused combat build, or you want to focus more on melee combat in general, grab a trait like Gymnast to give yourself a much-needed boost to your nimble skill. Again, nimble is one of the most painstaking skills to grind in the game, and it's a necessity for melee combat. At nimble level 3, you can aim walk at the same speed as the default zombies. This is the ideal level to get to if you want to get some zombie conga lines going, which will make combat much easier to manage. Antique ovens do not have the ability to use VHS tapes. It's a small detail, but one that'll make your life much easier whenever you plan to raid the nearby Blockbuster. Use VHS tapes to grind your first few levels in the fishing skill. It'll make catching fish exponentially easier to the point where you won't have to spend 10 plus hours in between each goldfish you manage to pocket. Cruise control resets every time you tap a zombie with your car, or get into a slight fender bender. It's something to keep an eye on while driving if you notice you're suddenly going 5 miles an hour after phasing through a zombie going Mach Jesus. When going on looting runs, it's always a good idea to keep a hammer and screwdriver on you. This will allow you to disassemble any doors that you may find or not have a key for, such as an armory door in a police station. Roads are the best location to forage for chipstones. They are also typically found in the cracks of the roads, so it's best to just hop on one of the highways during the middle of the day and walk a few blocks. The crate rain collector barrel that you unlock at carpentry level 4 only holds 160 units of water, whereas the barrel you unlock at carpentry level 7 holds 400 units of water for the same amount of resources. As long as you prioritize grabbing those skill books or VHS tapes, hitting carpentry level 7 should only take a few days of grinding. It's worth holding off on creating rain barrels until you unlock carpentry level 7 for over double the water storage for the same amount of resources. Metal crates have double the storage capacity that a wooden crate does, with metal crates holding 80 storage space, whereas the wooden ones only hold 40. This isn't to say that the wooden crates are a bad investment. I actually prefer them over metal crates for most of my playthroughs because of how cheap they are to make, but once you have a base set up and have some metal laying around, they're definitely worth swapping over to. You can use poisonous berries and mushrooms to fill composters for farming. This is incredibly useful if you haven't started a farm yet and don't want to wait weeks to harvest your potatoes. You can sleep on any chair, couch, or bed in the game, but all items have a different quality level ranging from poor to good. Sleeping on a poor quality piece of furniture will reduce the rate that you lose tiredness, which means you'll have to sleep longer to reach a fully rested state. With the new exhaustion mechanics, Short Blade has become the most efficient way to fight zombies with melee combat. This is due to the fact that they use the least amount of endurance while fighting, allowing you to fight for a much longer duration than, say, Long Blunt. Recipe magazines can be found in mailboxes. It's worth keeping your inventory open as you run through neighborhoods so you don't miss any hidden gems left in a mailbox. Maggots can be used as fishing bait. These spawn on and around zombie corpses as they begin to deteriorate. The best method for farming these is to pile up a group of recently slain zombies and check back every day. This will allow you to collect dozens of bait to help you catch larger fish. Cigarettes can spawn on zombie corpses. The percentage chance of this happening varies by location, with the highest percentage chance occurring when zombies are killed in the Valley Station Mall parking lot, specifically the north end of the Star Eplex Cinema near the shops. Composters have a chance to spawn worms as the rotten food is converted into compost. It's not an overly reliable source since it's only something like a 10% chance, but it's better than nothing, though you can also just dig furrows and accumulate worms that way. You can use rain puddles to wash yourself during a thunderstorm. Keep this in mind next time you wake up and think it's a good idea to run Fear of Blood as a trait. Spears have a percentage chance to break while fishing. Since their condition scales with carpentry, crafting a spear past carpentry level 3 will give you the most potential usage when fishing compared to a fishing pole, which will have a higher percentage chance to break, whether from condition or simply losing the line. This makes spearfishing one of the most efficient methods at later levels, as you'll be able to use the same spear for multiple days without it breaking. Though, take all of this with a grain of salt, I have never experienced a spear breaking while fishing, and I've done multiple 100-day playthroughs in the wilderness where fishing is the primary focus, so there is that. Collect digital watches and walkie-talkies off of zombie corpses. This is a great way to pound out your first electrical skill to unlock hot wiring, as well as helping to build up any scrap electronics you may need to repair your generators with. Without reading the Volume 1 skill book, you gain 0.5 XP per watch and walkie-talkie, meaning you'll need a combination of 150 items to pull this off. If you manage to find a Volume 1 electrical skill book, this will be bumped to 1.5 XP per watch and walkie-talkie, meaning you'll only need 50 items to pull this off. This isn't even including disassembling radios and TVs that you come across as well, so in theory, you'll need even less. You can double barricade windows and doors for added protection. Each window or door allows 4 planks to be placed on each side, meaning the zombies will need to break through 8 barriers instead of 4 in order to get to where you are. There are still massive sections of the map that don't have a loot pool for foraging yet. Try to stick to the main cities and forests nearest to them so you don't run into this. In conjunction with tip 52, foraging does not need to be enabled to see if you can find items. Opening up the foraging menu will display what items are available to find in that location, along with any bonuses or negatives. If you find yourself face to face with several random question marks and the words "nothing here," well, that means you're not going to find anything in that area, regardless of enabling foraging. This is one of those topics that people love to be wrong about because it was never truly explained when this change was adapted like 2 years ago. The shove run mechanic is one that's a little harder to explain, but something that I never really see players do, and I really don't know why. At the time of writing this, zombies do not have the ability to grab you while you're tripping or jogging or sprinting. They can if you stop moving or fall over, but if a zombie is about to bite you, simply shift running away will shove the zombie off of you, causing you to stumble. Shoving one zombie will force you to stumble, but you should be fine unless you chose clumsy, in which case just die, re-roll, and never make that mistake again. For a quick explanation of how this works, all you need to do is hold shift and tap whichever key you're facing. For example, if I'm facing to the right, I will hold shift and then press D, and that will cause me to jog away, but if there's a zombie in front of me, I will instinctively shove the zombie before moving. Moving back to another topic we've already discussed, one of the best ways to gain weight currently is to just hit up a bar. It sounds dumb, but they're generally safer than grocery stores, and bourbon comes in at a whopping 1,500 calories per bottle. Drinking just 2 bottles will give you enough calories to start gaining weight. For reference, I walked into a random bar in a fresh playthrough and was able to find 8 bottles of bourbon, not including the 500 calorie wine bottles or any 720 calorie bags of chips laying around. Also ties in with the fact that most bars such as the Rusty Rifle in Muldra or Twiggy's in West Point serve as really good safe houses. So you might as well knock out 2 birds with 1 stone and live there, at least when starting out. Want to keep yourself safe on the 2nd floor of a building but don't have a sledgehammer to knock out the stairs with? Well, you can place items such as tables in front of the stairs. If any zombies aggro you, they'll begin banging on the tables, alerting you to their location. This should give you enough of a notice to kill them before they destroy the furniture, or if there's too many, to flee before they manage to sneak up on you. Overheating yourself will get you killed. Rotanaru has a fantastic video on this that I'll link below, but all you need to know is that if you see a heat moodle pop up on your screen, you're doubling how quickly you become fatigued. It's almost safer to go with less clothing and protection and have the ability to fight longer than it is to double up on hoodies and leather jackets, with the offset being that you'll become fatigued after only a couple swings. My good friend Drunk on Life also has a pretty hilarious story about how he overheated his character to death, where he went to sleep with too many clothes on, sweated through everything, caught a cold, and died all in one night. It's pretty crazy some of the ways you can die in this game. But yeah, ask him about it sometime. I'm sure he'd love to tell you. Looping back to foraging once again, different occupations allow for different foraging bonuses. Dan Buttworth, a longtime member of the channel, gave a pretty good example of this, where grabbing Veteran gives a bonus 1.75 meters radius to foraging, along with a reduced darkness and rain penalty, which I didn't know about until I started working on this video. I asked the PZ community for some of their hidden gems and got a fantastic find from El Desert. They explained that with the current build, Strength's 9 through 10 special trait does not apply the melee damage bonus correctly. The difference between level 3 strength and level 10 strength is only about 30% damage. Because of this, weapon skills become a much higher focus as they provide damage scaling with weapons of that skill. When sitting on the ground, you can stand up faster by holding shift and pressing a movement key. This can save your life if you ever forget the fact that zombies exist in this game and like to sneak up on you. Many short blunt fans prefer hammers, but metal pipes actually give more base damage and have a higher maximum range. The base hammer has a minimum damage of 0.5 and a maximum range of 1.1, while the metal pipe has a minimum damage of 0.6 and a maximum range of 1.2. Both weapons have the same maximum damage output and have the same minimum range. Need a campfire but don't have a lighter or matches to light it? You can craft a notched plank as long as you have any knife or screwdriver and a plank or log. You ever find yourself with multiple copies of the same skill book? Use the extras for fuel in your campfires or antique ovens. Books add an extra 15 minutes of burn time. A fireman t-shirt offers more insulation and wind resistance than a long sleeve t-shirt, with fireman shirts offering 50% insulation and 30% wind resistance, whereas a long sleeve shirt only offers 30% insulation and 15% wind resistance. By comparison, a tank top offers 40% and 30%. The military backpack offers the highest capacity, along with the highest item weight reduction, but also has the largest movement speed penalty. There isn't a huge difference between this and the large backpack. There's actually only like a 1 or 2 point difference, so choose whichever you like more. Using earbuds allows you to silence radios, meaning zombies will not be attracted to its noise when you want to listen to the daily weather report. Holding tissue or toilet paper will muffle your sneezes and sniffles while sick. It's a good item to keep on you if you ever find yourself in the middle of a city with a nasty cold. Video games can be disassembled for electrical XP. This also applies to any radio or TV in the game, as TVs are technically viewed as radios. You can use a combination of mops and bleach to clean blood stains on the walls and floors. Once your base is nice and clean, drink the rest of the bleach as a nice reward. Trap crates are the best option for trapping, as they give the highest percentage chance of catching rabbits and squirrels while using the same amount of resources as a trap box, but with 1.5 times the strength of a snare. Watering cans can hold the most water at 40 units. This is a separate number than the amount of water that can be given to plants, which always maxes at 100. Buckets can hold the next highest amount of water at 32.3 units when full. For comparison, a normal water bottle holds 10 units of water. Any placed traps need to be at least 75 tiles away from your location for them to trigger. This means you can't just place traps on your rooftop and then go to sleep and expect them to trigger the next morning. Traps also need to be placed in specific biomes for them to perform optimally. For example, the trap crate will catch rabbits if placed in the deep forest, which are the best nutritional animal to focus on for hunting. Keep in mind all of this could be changing with build 42, but as of 41.78, this is still accurate. Need to drive through a city but don't want to pull every zombie in a 50-mile radius on top of you? Tap W instead of holding it down. This will create a smaller sound radius, pulling zombies from closer to you without drawing the attention of any a few blocks over. Having a poor quality muffler on the car that you're driving will increase the sound radius of your vehicle while you're driving. For trapping purposes, different animals are attracted to different baits. I found that using cabbages for bait works best for rabbits and is also one of the best crops to farm in general. This way you can double up on farming without really having to change anything to accommodate. Long rectangular warehouses typically hold dozens of sacks of fruit and vegetables, making them a fantastic location to target in the first few days of your playthrough. If you manage to find one near your base, you can transport the food to a freezer to give you several days worth of food. If you need to loot a gun store but don't have a sledgehammer, you can burn one section of the wall by throwing a Molotov at it. This sounds like I'm just trying to get you killed, but it's actually quite effective. We used this in our Iron Man series a while back to loot a gun store in Louisville. Just make sure that the wall you hit isn't next to a weapons locker, as you'll risk burning that down before hopping through. Fires can be extinguished by right-clicking on them, assuming you have enough water to put it out. This applies to holding water bottles as well, but a bucket of water will do the trick just fine. If you're having trouble towing a vehicle, it may not be an issue of inadequate horsepower. Check the tires to make sure they're fully pumped on both the towed vehicle and the car you're driving. And if you need, go pick up a pump at a mechanic shop. They're very easy to find and incredibly useful. This one is specific to multiplayer, but for all of you newbies out there, disassembling crates or containers in popular POIs across the map is considered a move, and in most cases will result in you getting banned from those servers. Sticking with multiplayer for a second, when you join a modded server, the server will automatically download the mods needed for you before joining. This means you don't need to go through and manually download each individual mod on that list. Want to get to Louisville, but you don't want to head through the checkpoint on the main road? Well, there's an alternative back road path that you can take on the east side. It'll take you around the main city, and you'll be able to enter through a residential area next to a gated community. There's a ton of houses to loot in this section, and even a few fire stations and gun stores along the way as well. Regular books still remain as one of the best options to cure boredom and depression. If you're like me and like to spend several days at a time farming your first aid inside, you can fully remove max boredom, anxiety, and depression by reading 2 books, which, even with slow reader, can be done in around 1 in-game hour. Don't ask me how it's possible to read The Great Gatsby twice in an hour. I'm not Chris Traeger, but maybe your Zomboid character is. If you have a pen or pencil, you can write on sheets of paper and notebooks. This is helpful if you want to organize your crates, as you can place a sheet of paper on top of each one with the contents inside. Or you can also leave yourself suicide notes, whichever helps you sleep at night. If you want to quickly remove boredom without having to read a book, you can simply drive around in your car. This can be amplified by listening to your favorite tunes, such as Rappin' for Jesus.
My crew is big and it keeps getting bigger. That's 'cause Jesus Christ is my...
Want an unlimited water source in a fenced-in compound that can easily be turned into a super fortress? The country club outside of Riverside has a large pool in front of it, with an additional pond to its north. Both can be used for drinking water, provided you have a generator or a campfire kit, with the club lounge being completely fenced in, so no zombies are going to touch you as long as you get in there safely. There's also a level 7 rain collector in the sauna next to the pool, so if you're able to pick it up without breaking it, you'll have a portable rain collector barrel if you ever want or need one. You can use alarm clocks or car alarms to distract zombies. The best way to do this is to set an alarm on an alarm clock and place it on the opposite end of where you want to go. Once it goes off, it'll pull the zombies over to it, allowing you to sneak past. Just be careful for zombie migration, because as soon as the alarm stops, there's a chance they'll just start shambling back towards you. If you need planks but don't have an axe to chop down trees with, you can typically find dozens within warehouses and factory buildings. I've been able to find crates with 4 or 5 planks in them at times. If you're able to make 2 or 3 runs, you should have more than enough planks to fully barricade your safe house and to begin working on other building projects, all without having to chop down a single tree. You can also disassemble furniture, but if you have low carpentry level, there's a chance you won't get any usable materials out of it. This is a guaranteed way to get planks early on. Cars are categorized by vehicle type. These include standard, heavy duty, and sport. Keep this in mind when choosing your primary vehicle for looting runs, as you'll want to grab one that you'll be able to accumulate spare parts for, since you can only swap parts for that specific vehicle type. This means a standard car cannot use a window that belongs to a heavy duty car. You can see the tire type that is used for each vehicle by opening up the hood. On the top of the vehicle menu, right below the car name, it'll tell you the selected item. When you click on a tire, it'll tell you if that's a value tire, performance tire, and so on. You can also see the car type in the left-hand side of this menu as well. Using bladed items or axes on zombies will damage their clothing. If a zombie has an article of clothing that you want, like a t-shirt or sweater, use a blunt weapon on them in order to keep the clothing pristine. You know those barns or sheds that are like half open or missing a wall? Well, the game considers them to be indoors even with an entire wall missing. If you're looking for shelter during the winter or just need a place to sleep for the night, they make a great emergency option. I did this during my cryogenic winter playthrough where the interior was a livable temperature, while stepping 1 tile to the south plunged me into the negatives. Running over bushes and saplings will drastically slow you down. Either cut them down and remove them with an axe, or pick a different route. This is a surefire way to get yourself killed after spending minutes just trying to power through and attracting every zombie in Knox County in the process. Fitness is a safer option than strength when starting out. You can always find a large backpack or a military pack coupled with the organized trait to carry more items. Higher strength allows you to hit for more damage, but higher fitness allows you to fight for longer, run farther, and recover faster. It's overall a better option than a damage increase, especially considering that weapon damage also scales with skill level, so you'll be able to make up the damage increase that way. Sinks can be placed on top of wooden crates. This allows you to keep a larger storage container while also having drinkable water. The best example I have for this is that players on my public server have made public drinking fountains in the major cities by building a platform, placing a rain collector, and then building a crate beneath it while placing a sink on top of the crate. This allows anyone to have clean drinking water in any circumstance. These last few are specific to multiplayer, but with it becoming more popular, I wanted to leave some etiquette tips that'll improve your time and the time of others in public servers. The first big one is when finding a zombified player, place their loot in a backpack after killing them, and reach out to said player or leave a message in chat or on Discord for them. You could also just loot all their gear and run away, but working as a community will give everyone involved a much better experience. Multiplayer safe houses can only be expanded via custom safe zones created by admins. Keep this in mind when looking for a place to store your vehicles, as players are able to push cars out of safe zones and tow them away. To avoid this, I recommend using a sledgehammer and turning your ground floor into a makeshift garage, as players can't access it unless trespassing is turned on. When choosing a safe house in multiplayer, it's always better to base outside of POI locations, as basing too close to a POI can prevent loot respawn. You don't want to be that guy who looks over an entire server because you wanted to base up in the guard tower of the Louisville military checkpoint. And there you have it, 101 more tips and tricks to help you out in Project Zomboid. I'm sure you're already down there, but let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if any of these were too easy, or if you thought I missed any. A very special thank you to my YouTube members and Patreon supporters who make it possible for me to do what I love for a career. I appreciate you all, and as always, thanks for stopping by.